This morning, it was great seeing that. It was an amazing, amazing few days. It was a real blessing to be a part, and your children here are a credit to you. They were so beautifully behaved, and it was great seeing children from the community join in with the culture of the kids here. So I'm gonna perch here for the talk this morning, and kids, I'm gonna ask you to come round me. Come round and close. Come and sit down here, and hopefully the adults will be able to see me a little bit at the back. 2. So, first question, who's already had chocolate this morning? If you look around, no adults had their hand up. Do you think that's true? Adults, who's already had a bit of an Easter egg this morning? Go on. There was 1 or 2 very shy hands going up there. So today is Easter Sunday. That is a really, really, really exciting day because it's something that's true all year round. We look at Jesus dying and rising again, but it's a special day where we really remember it, and maybe we think a little bit more about what that means, what that meant at the time and what that means for us now. I think Alan's going to be teaching us more about that in a bit. So I thought this week we would look at a verse, and I was going to ask the adults what they looked at last Sunday in church, but it's up there already. But I'm thinking you looked at the Great Commission last week. Adults, give me a nod if that's right. So we're going to be looking at the Great Commission, and I just wondered if one of you who's confident with reading wants to read that verse out in a now slide voice for us. Anyone want to have a go? Shall I read it then? We'll say, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." So that is what Jesus told us. And you know what? Jesus gave us a mission. These were some of the final words that we read in one of the books of the Bible that Jesus said before he went to heaven. And you know, this is a pretty big mission that Jesus gave us, and we're going to look at it. But you know why we can do that? Because of Jesus' resurrection. Who knows what resurrection means? And I want to have a guess. If not, I'll come to the adults, so be ready, adults. Okay, adults, I don't want to have a go at what resurrection means.
Risen from the dead.
Risen from the dead. Who was it that rose from the dead? Go on. Jesus. So Jesus rose from the dead. And that changed a lot of things at the time, but also for us now if we believe that. So if we have a look up there, there's a mission that Jesus gave us. And it says we have to make disciples and teach them to obey everything that I've commanded you. So a big question, what is a disciple? Because we can't do the mission if we don't understand what it means. Go on, have a go.
Someone who follows Jesus.
A follower of Jesus. That was amazing. Is that what you were going to say, Ruby, or do you want to say something else?
I want to say that someone who listens to God and follows the instructions of God.
Can we have a little round of applause for that answer? That was a beautiful answer. Well done. We've got 2 preachers in the making here. So a disciple is someone who follows Jesus. And I'm going to ask you some pretty hard questions and see what you think. I'm going to say, we call it a Christian today. Someone's a disciple, they're a Christian, they follow Jesus. But what makes us a Christian? So, if as a baby, your parents dedicated you or baptized you when you were a little baby, does that make you a Christian? No. It's a really, really great thing because it's your parents saying, actually, we believe in Jesus and we'd love to teach our child to. But it doesn't make you a Christian. What about if you go to a Christian school? Does that make you a Christian? No. Again, you get to hear great things about Jesus, but it doesn't make you a Christian. It just makes you a child at school. What about if every week you come to church? Does that make you a Christian? Yes. Makes answers. Do you know, it doesn't. Again, it's a brilliant thing and we should do it if we're Christians, but it doesn't make us a Christian. Sitting in a garage doesn't make us turn into a car. I don't think. None of the adults look like the cars, and probably some of the dads spend a good amount of time in the garages. And sitting in a church doesn't make us a Christian, but it does let us hear about Jesus. So then, how do we become a Christian? Go on, Ruby.
To believe in God.
Yeah, it's something we choose in our hearts. It's our own choice, and we make that decision to say, Jesus, I want to follow you and be your disciple. And we've got to know what that is and how to become a Christian if we're going to go out into all the world and help people become a Christian. So I thought today, I was driving home after Holiday Bible Club, and I said, Lord, what do you want to teach these young people, and hopefully the adults too, about today? And he said, I want to teach them about teaching people about me. So if we're Christians, how we teach others about him. So we're going to look at tell. Tell the world about me. So how do we spell? Hannah, do you know how to spell tell? Great, phonetics. Let's have a look. I'm hoping if I can work the clicker. Tell. Got it down there. And we're going to look at 4 words about how we tell people about Jesus. Because we could always open our mouths and we talk about Jesus a bit like we do in church. And sometimes it's really easy. Put your hand if you've ever found it easy to tell someone about Jesus. Sometimes. I think the young people are actually better at this than adults. Put your hand if you've ever found it hard to tell people about Jesus. I'm going to ask again because none of the adults put their hands up for any of those. Adults, put your hand if you've ever been in a situation where you found it easy to tell people about Jesus. Sometimes when people are really, really ready to know about him, it's easy. And sometimes when we're really gifted in evangelism, it's easy. But put your hand up, adults, if you ever found it hard to tell anyone about Jesus. Yeah, me too. Evangelism is not my natural gifting. So, these are 4 words that I think God gave me on how we can tell people about Jesus. The first one is a pretty big word. Oops. Testimony. Testimony. And a testimony, I can see some puzzled eyes here. It's a big word for saying we share our story. So, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Can you remember? Weetabix. So, what's your name? Rosie. Rosie had Weetabix for breakfast this morning. Now, I can't say to Rosie, no, you didn't. You had toast. Because that's true, isn't it? You had Weetabix. That's her truth. What about, what's your favourite colour?
You like Rice Krispies, yeah. Not the favourite.
Rice Krispies. That'll do. I can't say you didn't have Rice Krispies. Great listening, by the way. I'm pretty impressed with that. Because that's your truth. So our testimonies is something that's our truth. And people actually can't say that's not true because it's our truth. And if we're Christian, Jesus has changed our life, which means we can tell people our testimonies. So have a look at that picture there. That is me. I am a twin and I am on the left, to save any confusion. So that is me when I was 11 years old. I just started high school. And you know, on that picture at that time, I was very, very, very scared as a child. I was very fearful, and you know, I wouldn't go out the house without my twin sister a lot of the time, or a member of my family. At school, they often had to send me home because I had so much tummy aches. I was so scared of things that I couldn't move. They just couldn't make me move, so they'd have to send me home. And that was if I got into school, because sometimes I was just so scared that I couldn't even get into school. I didn't go to parties. I didn't even go to church. I stopped going to church. I was so scared of being with people. And then fast track now, so I'm 29 now, so a lot of years later, now I've moved from where I am in Preston, down to Wales. So how did I get from that place where I didn't even dare go out the house to now I've moved away from all my family, all my friends and everything I know to live in the valleys? Because Jesus told me I'd be going to live in the valleys one day. And you know what's even, worse and better? When Jesus told me I'd be going to live in the valleys, he said, you're going to be joining an organisation that's for missionaries, so people who tell people about Jesus. Now, we're all missionaries, but it's just a job title as well. And then he said, this was really fun, I said, okay, maybe Jesus, I'll think about it. And then he said, by the way, you've no job role where you're going, you've no salary, you've no accommodation, and the charity you're going to be a part of doesn't even yet exist. And I said, Lord, you're telling me that I'm going to go from a girl who's too scared to go out the house to go into, at the time, sorry guys, the middle of nowhere, a place I didn't know, and when I moved here, they were all talking in a language and an accent I couldn't even understand sometimes what they were saying. For that? Why? So how did I go from that to that? And you know, the answer is Jesus healed me. Jesus took me on a journey where he changed my life, he changed my heart, and he made me much, much braver. But not because I'm brave, but because I know that I can trust him. And you know, if we tell people our testimonies, that's a little bit of mine, and we have a testimony every day with Jesus, if people are interested, they ask questions. And they can't say, that's not true, because it is true, because it's your truth. So sharing our testimonies with people about why we love Jesus, why he's changed our life, what gets us excited, what he's helped us with when we're scared or afraid. People like hearing those stories, and adults, if you don't ask each other's testimonies, get asking. They're so encouraging when we hear each other's testimonies. So, what was our first word? Can I remember it? Ruby, can you remember it? Because it's a big word. Begins with a T. Go on, Hannah, have a go. Testimony, well done. So that's your story. Our next word, thank you, I'll let you click at this one. Encourage. E for encourage. And you know, as Christians, we can encourage people, our friends, to find out more about Jesus. Because if they become Christians, you know, Pastor at the front here is brilliant, but it's not his job to teach us everything we could know about Jesus. It's our jobs. So actually, sometimes I say to my friends, do you know what? You've heard me talk about Jesus. What can I pray for with you? And sometimes they'll say, oh, I've got a dodgy knee. Can you pray for that with me? And sometimes I'll say, look, I know you don't believe that Jesus is true, but why don't you ask him to show you if he's real? Because if you're asking him and he doesn't exist, then you don't lose anything. But if he says something back to you, you've gained so much. So we can encourage our friends to find out more about Jesus for themselves. Go and read the Bible. Adults, there's a great app called Word One-to-One. You can do one-to-one with people and you just looking at the Bible. Listen. Listen? I thought we were supposed to be telling. But do you know what? When we love people, we listen. When I'm with people and I think, oh, some of my friends, they really, really don't know Jesus and they do a lot of things that I think will make Jesus' heart very sad. But I like to listen to them. Sometimes I listen to what they believe in. Sometimes I listen to where they're at because they all have a story, a testimony too. And sometimes their stories make me feel sad and I think I understand if you've been through all that, why you don't know Jesus. But let me help you. And you know, if we listen to somebody, it makes them feel like we really care. Because if somebody was talking and talking and talking and talking and talking at you and never stopped to say, what's your favourite colour or what did you do today? We'd probably pretty quickly get bored of being with that person. So listen, we need to listen to our friends and those we're sharing about Jesus too. And to love them. Put your hand up if you have an idea of how we can show love to somebody. Go on. Give them a hug. That is a great one. We hug people we love. That's right. Go on, Hannah.
Kiss.
We can sometimes give them a kiss, yeah, when we love them. Go on, Ruby.
We could help them.
We can help them. We do. We help people we love because we love them, want to help them. Go on, girls, have you got one? We can get them gifts, yeah. We can listen to them. I'm sure Mum and Dad would love it if you showed them love by listening to them. There is lots of ways we can love people without having to say a word. And sometimes when we really love people, people just know it because we feel warm and cozy when we're with them. We can see that they look at us in a way that says, yeah, I really, really like you. I love you. So we've got testimony, encourage, listen, and love. So Jesus has given us a mission. Number one, to love and get to know Jesus more. Because if we don't get to know Jesus more and more and more and more, then we're probably going to fall out of love. But actually, the more we get to know him, the more we love him because he's so amazing. And that is what Jesus created us for, to love him, to get to know him. And that's a beautiful, beautiful job and purpose. And two, to tell others about him so that they can get to know him. And you know what? This isn't like school where you pass things and you fail things and you do well and you don't do well. Jesus says it's his job. It's his job by his Holy Spirit. He helps people become Christians. All we have to do is be obedient and try and tell them by talking about Jesus, by testimony, encourage, listening, and loving them. So, I have got a mission for us. So if my little helpers want to scooch out, and adults, this is going to involve you, so listen up. So if you three, can you go to the back to Pastor Phil? So from mission, because it's pretty hard to tell people about Jesus, and we've got a whole world to tell us what Jesus says. So we're just going to do something warm and happy. For the next 2 minutes, there's going to be a song playing, and I want you to go around and shake as many people's hands in this church as you can. It's going to be chaos. The song will come to an end, and they'll stop singing, and there's just a bit of music. At that point, start heading back to your seats. But are we up for a bit of chaos, kids? They're smiling, so I think that was yes. Adults, are we up for a bit of chaos? Yes. Okay, 2 minutes Off we go. Play the music and shake as many hands in your church as possible. Sitting back down. Well done, little helpers. Children, if you want to come back to the front for the last 2 minutes. Coming back. So if you just go back a slide, if that's okay, to Mission Impossible. So I did not get to shake everyone's hands, but there was a really nice buzz in the church then. Well done, guys. Did anyone think they managed to shake everybody's hand? No? And you know what? Mission Impossible, or if you can get the Mission Impossible bit up if that's possible. If not, it's fine. Mission Impossible. We cannot, one of us, tell everybody in the world about Jesus. No matter how great a preacher we are, teacher we are, Jesus hasn't called us to do one person to do everybody, because he gives all of us people in our lives. So this morning, I'm hoping this works. If it hasn't, it'll just be funny anyway. This morning, some of these children had a secret mission during that time. So I would like everyone to just put your left hand up. Left hand. Smell it. That will just tell you how hygienic you are. Put your right hand up. Hopefully, give it a smell. Put your hand up if your hand is smelling sweet and nice. Okay, so 3 of our girls had some perfume on their hands, and their job was to spread it around as many people as possible. And sometimes that's passed on because one person, a girl, shook someone's hand, who shook someone's hand, who shook someone's hands. And you know, I think that's what we're supposed to do to share about Jesus. It's supposed to be in our friendship groups with the people we love, and we share about Jesus. So if you go to the next slide, just an interesting fact to finish off with. Christianity has been around for thousands of years, and yet 2,000 years ago when Jesus died, he made it possible for us to tell people about Jesus and have their lives changed, and still the whole world doesn't know Jesus. But if we look at what we just did, I've got a girl there on the screen, and she, for the first 6 months of her life, tells someone about Jesus, and then they tell other people about Jesus. So can you see they're just telling one person each, and then they tell people about Jesus, and they tell people about Jesus, and people give their hearts to Jesus. Christianity will spread really fast. And you know, there is 8 billion people in the world today. 8 billion. And I can't preach to 8 billion. I'd be too scared. I think I'd pass out. But what I can do is I can tell the people in my friendship groups about Jesus. And I read a fact, and it was quite a sobering fact. If there was one Christian in the world, 1 out of 8 billion, and for 6 months they took one friend and shared about Jesus and prayed for that friend to get to know Jesus. And in 6 months, that friend got to know Jesus. For the next 6 months, they both went out and told one friend about Jesus. And that friend got to know Jesus. And then those 4 people went out for the next 6 months. And if every 6 months, each person that got to know Jesus from that one became a Christian, guess how many years it would take for 8 billion people to get to know Jesus? Have a guess. 8,000, that's a lot of years, isn't it? Any other guesses? Go on.
800.
800 adults. Any guesses? Go on, Alan. Put you on the spot. Anyone else? A guess from this side? If not, I'm picking on Dave. 1,500. Do you know how many years it would take? Oh. In 16 and a half years, one person, telling one person every 6 months, 8 billion, over 8 billion actually people, there isn't that many people in the world, would know Jesus. So Jesus hasn't called us, a reminder, because of what he did as his resurrection, to tell the whole world about Jesus. He's called us to love and tell people in our friendship groups, in our families, those who don't know him, and they go out. And if we go back to our verse, sorry, flick right back to the first slide. Actually, no, don't, it's fine. We're called to make disciples, and that just means telling people about Jesus. So to finish, can you remember any of the 4 words we had that we tell? T-E-L-L. Go on. Testimony. Well done. Hannah. Love was one of them. Well done. Ruby. Listen. And the one beginning with E. What was the one beginning with E? Go on. Encourage. So we can share our testimony. We can encourage. Was this Nikki up there? We can listen and we can love. And you guys have done brilliant listening today. So thank you very much. And you can go back to your seats.